Hey everybody, Necromedes here. I have some free time while I'm waiting for a few things to get done, so I figured I'd go ahead and throw together a much-due event tutorial. The last video I put up was leading up to the sorts of things that you can do with events. However, I never got around to putting one out. I think it's probably been maybe a month since I posted that. I haven't actually checked the date. But in the last video, I was explaining what different things are available in the event page options. Let me go ahead and bring that up. Like the interface and the different options that you have here, which made it into an hour-long video, which is actually a lot longer than I originally anticipated to make. So today I'm going to try and make it a little bit shorter, hopefully considerably shorter. But today we're just going to be going over your basic switches, self-switches, and maybe touching on variables a little bit. The first thing we're going to do is, let's see, let's change the flooring to, that's kind of ugly. Pardon my language. Alright, let's go to dungeon. No, we don't want it to be a carpet. Let's just make it rock. I don't know, some borders and whatnot. This isn't really necessary, but I'm just gonna make this look a little bit nicer while we go over this. Okay, basic little room. Now let's say you're making a dungeon and you want, for instance, okay, better yet, we'll do it this way. Let's say you're making a volcanic dungeon and you want to add a few extra different effects into the surroundings instead of just having the drab, basic, static tiles. So what you can do is, for this instant, we're going to, oops, wrong one. We're going to take this tile, which makes a little, oops, makes a little hole in the ground, and we'll make 3. Make it a little off-centered. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to make the effect of flames shooting up out of the floor. And we're going to make it set to where the flames pop up at different times, so it gives a little bit more of a random feel to it. So what you want to do is make a new event, and this first page, go away CP, please don't message me right now. What you want to do is make an event in the first page. You're going to want to make sure that it's just completely blank, and then you make a new page. Now with this one, turn self-switch A on for the condition, and for the graphic, go down here to other number 2, and select this flame graphic here, which is actually pretty cool looking. Now with that done, you want to turn walking animation off, which means that it won't quote-unquote turn to face the character if they decide to try and activate it in any way. And turn stepping animation on, and just to make sure, we're going to do direction fix as well, so that way it'll make sure that it doesn't turn at all. Now, in the first page, which is blank, we're going to set that to parallel process. And then we're going to go to set move root, wait, and we're going to make it wait for 5 seconds, give or take, before it'll do something. So we'll set that to 300 frames. Now keep in mind that, like I said before, I think I said it before, it's been a while since I made that video, but 60 frames equals roughly 1 second in the game. So, my ear's plugged for some reason. It makes it pop and crackle while I'm talking. Okay, so set that to wait for 300 frames. And since it's set to parallel process, that means that, for any of you who aren't familiar with it, or didn't watch my last video, parallel process means it's similar to auto run. With auto run, it means that as soon as the map is loaded, it will run, do its thing, and it will continue to run until you set it in such a way that it stops. Parallel process is similar, except with auto run, while that event is running, nothing else is happening. It's just that thing running. With parallel process, it runs alongside other events and processes, so that other things can happen, but this is still happening in the background. That's essentially what it is. It's basically like moving it to the background. It's still running, kind of like your background programs on your desktop. So, set that to parallel process, move root 300 frames, and this means that it will wait roughly 5 seconds before doing something. And what you want to do is in the next column, I suppose you can call these columns, I don't know, the next row, we're going to set it to self-switch on. Control self-switch on. Which means that it will wait 5 seconds before turning on its self-switch A to on. Now in the second one, which is already set to self-switch A is on for the conditional portion of the event, you want in here, also make sure this is set to parallel process as well. And this one, we want the flame to, you go to set move root by the way, and for the we want the flame to be visible for, we're gonna say 3 seconds, so that's 180 frames. And make sure that on these, by the way, you have it set wait for completion. That means that even though it's running in the background, normally if you do something like this with an auto run, if you set wait for completion, it's one of the things that contributes to everything being put on a stop until it finishes. But since it's parallel process, the waiting only applies to this event. Then at the end of that, you want to go to Control Self Switch A to off. Apply that. And we'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and change the theme to 0 or none. Turn the decision and cancel sounds off as well, because those are really annoying, especially in a tutorial. So we'll set that to that, and I'll show you what it looks like. Wait a minute. Oh, don't listen to me. I is smart. And what you want to make sure you do is the target character is default player, and I always seem to forget that. And I'll be sitting there like, why isn't it doing anything? Why can't I move? And I always forget that it's default player. So what you want to do instead is select this event. Great start to a tutorial, right? So this event, there we go. Now it should work. And if not, you can close the window. See? Then it waits 3 seconds and the flame goes away. Waits 5 seconds, the flame comes back. Now you can make this look really cool, and what you can do is you can just copy and paste this onto the other holes, and you can just modify them. And you can set the first page to wait for, we're going to say 180. And then the next one we're going to set it to, and it doesn't even have to be exactly in increments of 60. If you wanted to, you could set it to 200, which doesn't add up to 60 even, and it'll still look pretty cool. So just do it that way, and then in this one, we're going to set this to 100 frames, and then in the next page we're going to set it to 240 frames. It's not quite 5 seconds. Actually, it's 4 seconds. So then you've got random flames popping up. And it helps to add to the feeling that you're actually in a volcanic area and you've got flames spitting up every which direction. Now, you can make this a little more detailed by changing the opacity of the event as the flame comes up, and it kind of gives it that look of kind of shooting up. Or you can use different frames for the flame. It's however you want to do it, but this is the basic idea of how to use self switches for really cool effects. And you can apply self switches to just about anything in the game. As a matter of fact, it's one of the things that you're going to probably be using the most. I come to find that I usually use self switches more often than I do actual switches. I really only use actual switches in situations where it's like a global event. Like, for instance, you go halfway across the world and something happens, and a door on the other side of the world opens up. So, I mean, you can't necessarily do that with self switches without using a custom script, which one does exist, just so you know. I can't remember who makes it, but I'm pretty sure if you were to search on Google self switch, I think it was remote self switch script for RPG Maker VX Ace, and I do know for a fact that one does exist on VX, in case you're still using VX for some reason and haven't upgraded to Ace. I know that it exists for both of them. I want to say it was 2 different people that posted it or created the script, but they do exist. And what basically that allows you to do is it allows you to use a script call from an event to alter the self switch of a different event, which kind of gives you a little bit more freedom, but it also, in my opinion, kind of slows things down. And besides, I mean, if you can't get things done with 5,000 switches and potentially 5,000 variables that you could also fashion into switches, then you've either got a massive game or you're using switches way too much. But on to the next thing, we're going to go with variables. We're going to go with... No, we'll go down the list. We'll start with switches. I really don't care what the map name is, so we'll just call it 2. And what we're going to do here... we're going to go over some basic switch functions. We'll make a new map connected to this one, call it map 3. And just so we can tell them apart, we'll put some random mountains on this one. Okay, so what we're going to do is up here, we're going to make a new event. And we're going to make the image one of these hexagrams, and what we're going to be using this for is a form of teleporter. And with these, what you definitely want to make sure you do is set... You can use it to make it to where you have to use the action button to activate it, but today I'm going to be using event touch, which means it'll activate as soon as the player steps onto it. Set it to event, or not event touch, player touch. I almost made another mistake. Go away, CP. Anyway, and what you want to do is set the priority to below characters, otherwise they won't be able to walk on it. Unless you were to set it to through, and that there's not really any need to do that. So, and then we're going to go to second page, transfer player. And we're going to have the player appear right, we'll put it right here. have him face up, and that way as soon as they step onto this, they'll be teleported to that portion of the map. And then we're going to make another one over here. We're going to make this one purple, just because, yes I can. We'll set this to stepping animation too. I'll go ahead and adjust the other one accordingly. And we're going to make it teleport in front of this one, facing down, apply. Okay, so now we've got our bridge between the two maps ready. We'll set this to stepping animation. I'm wondering if that's my girlfriend coming home. If so, I'll be pausing the video shortly. I don't believe it is, though. Anyway, now we're going to say in map 3. No, we'll go with map 1. We're going to make a random character, let's say as wibbly wobbly eye thingy. And we're going to have him say, sorry for the loud clicking, by the way. My microphone is like right next to my keyboard. Bring me an ore and I'll make it into a sword for you. This will cover a few additional things in the events as well. So whenever you talk to him, it'll say bring me an ore and I'll make it into a sword for you. Now we're going to just leave him alone for the moment. We're going to go over here, and right next to this batch here, we're going to make another event. Excuse me. And we're going to make it look like... We're going to go with... What can I use? We'll just go with a random orb. Walking animation off, direction fix. This always happens when I talk a lot. My throat gets gunky. Okay, so when you use this, I'll have it pop up with "You found an ore!" exclamation point. And then we're going to change items. But before we do that, we're going to go to the items list. We're going to change maximum to 17, and we're going to make a new item. And we're going to call it ore. And just for the hell of it, we're going to make it look like random crystal thingy. And we're going to set use, never, scope, none, consume, no. And that should be good. Now I'll go back to here, and we're going to go in here and we're going to change items. We're going to select ore, increase constant 1, so it'll add 1 of it, or whatever you set this to. We can go with 4 to all the way up to 9,999, I think. But excuse me. We're just going to stick with 1. Now, after you pick it up, you might notice that it's still there and you can just use it over and over and over again. We don't want that. So we're going to set self switch A to on, and then the new one we're going to set self switch A to on for the conditions. And what that's going to do is it will switch over to the second page when you use it, and since there's nothing in this page to be done and it has no graphic, the event will disappear and it will be unusable. So that's good for events that you only want to be used once. Or if you figure out something like having, for instance, having a plant regrow over time and you don't want it to be picked until it's regrown, you can do the same thing with a timer, which we're definitely not going to get into today, because that's going to be most likely be a tutorial all its own. But we've got our ore, it'll add one to your inventory, so we're going to go back to little wibbly wobbly eye guy. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of this page just to save time. And we're going to get rid of this text. And what we're going to do is we're going to set item or exists for the condition of this page. Which means that so long as you have an ore in your inventory, this will happen. Ooh, excuse me. So, we're going to have him say, "You found an ore, exclamation. Give it to me and I'll make you a sword." And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to change items or decrease constant 1. That means it's going to take one out of our inventory if it's there. And then you can add in sound effects and whatever you want, but for now what we're going to do is we're just going to set it to wait for 3 seconds. That should be enough time. And then it's going to say, "Here is your sword!" Exclamation. And then it's going to set, let's see, change weapons. We'll go with mithril sword, increase by 1, and that's it. After that, it'll go back to this. It'll say, "Bring me an ore, and I'll make it into a sword for you." So, we can go ahead and go in and test it. Oops, I forgot to change the starting position. We'll stick you right here. Okay. So, wibbly wobbly guy. "Bring me an ore, and I'll make it into a sword for you." Step onto this. Teleports here. Slamming doors. You found an ore, it disappears, and you see, it is completely gone. Then we step back over here. Teleports us to here. You found an ore, give it to me and I'll make you a sword. Waits for 3 seconds. Here's your sword. And then, if you go into your inventory, mithril sword. So, I could have swore I turned off the back sound. In any case, doesn't matter. So that's basically how you'll use the item conditions, basic use of transfer events, adding items, removing them, etc. And in situations like this, for instance, with him making the sword, you can always set it up to where he goes into a building and you hear like clanging of a hammer and he comes back out with your sword or something like that, which would add a little bit more depth to your game, but we're not gonna go over that here. That's just an idea. This is the basic concept of it. And the last thing we'll touch on are variables. Now, variables can be very confusing. I'm not going to lie to you. Variables are one of the more advanced features of the engine, but once you get your mind wrapped around it, you can literally do whatever you want with it. I actually managed to put together a pretty basic battle system using only variables and switches. So, with that in mind, just keep that in mind and know that as long as you have the imagination and the patience, you can do just about whatever you want with variables. So what we're going to do is something very basic. We're going to simply make a character that will say, who messaged me? Oh well. We're going to make a character who has different programmed responses. Which means let's see, we're just going to make random evil character over here. Let's just stick them right here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be using conditional branches. Now what conditional branches are, I can't remember how much I touched on in my previous video, but conditional branches just basically make it to where certain parts of the event won't run unless said condition is met. It's kind of like the conditions over here, but also different. This just makes sure that that part of the event is accessible, whereas this actually deals with the things that it does. So with this one, what we're going to do is we're going to make a variable, and we're going to name it random speech. Doesn't matter what you name it. And we're going to set it to random. We're going to give him we're going to go with 5 phrases that he can say. So we're going to set it from 1 to 5. Random 1 to 5, right here in the operand. Now we're going to make a conditional branch. We're going to set it to variable random speech, and we're going to set it to if it's equal to 1, and we're going to turn set handling off. Now basically what I just did there was set handling when conditions do not apply. It means that it's basically a yes or no question. It says if this such and such is equal to blah blah blah, then it'll do this. If you click this and make sure that that's checked, it'll give an option to where what it will do if it's not equal to that. Now that's for really basic branches. What we're going to be doing is making 5 different conditions for 5 different things though. So in the first branch we're going to make I need a bath ... because he kind of looks like a scruffy barbarian character. And then we're gonna just copy and paste this. We're gonna adjust this one to constant of 2, and then we're gonna change this to what are you looking at? There we go. And then we're gonna make another one. Gonna set it for 3. What do you want? Then we're gonna make another one. We're gonna set it to 4. Gonna change this to blah blah blah. And then in the last one we're gonna set it to 5, and we're gonna have him say get out of here. There we go. Now basically the way that this is set up is when you first talk to him, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to set the random speech variable randomly between 1 and 5. And what these branches do is if the variable is set to 1, it'll say this. If it's set to 2, it'll do this, etc., etc. And I'll show you what I mean. Go down here, talk to him. What are you looking at? What are you looking at? What do you want? Get out of here. Blah blah blah. I need a bath. I need a bath. Blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. What are you looking at? So you see, every time you talk to them, they'll say something different. And this helps to add a lot more depth to your characters in the game. Could be a random homeless person who's babbling to himself. Could be a guard that has different tips on the game, and every time you talk to them, he has a different tip for you. You can even do it in a sense where, for instance, certain characters have a variable set to them, and every time you talk to them, it adds one point to that variable. And you can, for instance, make a character that will attack you if you bother him too much. So what you would do with that would be you would just set a conditional branch for if it is equal to or less than a certain number, then he'll say whatever. But if it goes greater than that, he'll say something like, that's it, and he'll attack you. And then you can just go on from there. So you see, with conditional branches, variables, and switches, you can just about do literally anything in this engine. Almost anything. But that is it for switches, variables, conditional branches, and adding items and that sort of thing. So, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here, and hopefully this will help a lot of you out and make variables and switches a little less daunting. I mean, they can be very overwhelming when you first look at them. It took me a long time to get used to using variables, but once I finally grasped the concept of it, I can throw crazy stuff together. So, hopefully this will help you guys out, and I will see you in the next video.